Well. The Milwaukee Bucks finally ship off Giannis Antetokounmpo. It has been a wild couple of years, and really, I made a video about this a while back, but I saw the writing on the wall as soon as they couldn't win again with Drew Holiday and Chris Middleton, that this was basically going to be the last hurrah. And after they won their championship, that was probably around the right time to kind of let go of everybody. But they needed to let go of Giannis too. And this is one of those things where at least they're still able to get a lot from Giannis because Giannis is still a prolific player. But it's one of those things where you could have gotten a lot more from, let's say, like a better team many years ago and gotten a lot more picks. But I mean, honestly, that's kind of asking for too much. They did get a great deal out of this. But when I look at the deal for Miami, as much as I love Giannis Antetokounmpo, I do believe that they kind of gave up too much. In the last couple of years, we've seen that in order for you to win a championship, it's not enough for you just to have great players, like a great 1-2 punch. You really need role players. I believe championships is won with the role players. They're run by the role players. And I've always talked about how much I love role players, but giving up so much, Khalil Ware and Jaime Jaquez, and Tyler Hero as well, giving up those players to basically just get Giannis and Bam together. And I know that they will create problems with the spacing of the court because Giannis is such a load and Bam can actually stretch the floor at least to a decent degree. And that'll basically leave the paint open for Giannis, which is exactly what he wants. And then they also have shooters. But is that going to be enough to win a championship? I don't believe so. I think that they need to get more players on their team, just more role players just in general. Because if they don't, this is simply a team that's going to be Milwaukee Bucks 2.0. Giannis can do so much, but also you have to think about his injury history. Is he getting older? Will he be able to play 60 games a season? That's approximately how much I believe a player should play, 60 to 65 games a season. Will he be able to do that? Was his injury last season even a real injury? Was it an injury that is going to keep him back in the future? We don't really know. There's a lot of question marks about Giannis Antetokounmpo in terms of his health and in terms of how he's going to play for the rest of his career. And I also believe that, too, the fact that they gave up so much from their Miami Heat team, they gutted their whole team just to get Giannis. I just don't think that it's going to be good enough. I mean, like the New York Knicks, where you saw it was basically a win by committee. Of course, Jalen Brunson did his thing in the last game. But when you look at the contributions between OG Anunoby, Mikal Bridges, Jose Alvarado, even Josh Hart when he became electric, and even Landry Shamet who was doing his thing, and then whenever Karl-Anthony Towns didn't get into foul trouble, everybody kind of delivered in some form of fashion and did their best. But when you don't have those premier pieces on the team, will you be able to go for a championship? And I don't believe it now. Now, that doesn't mean that they can't make improvements to the roster, but if this is the roster that they're going to take into the preseason, into the regular season, I don't believe that they have enough. They gave up too much. This is their gamble that within the next 2 years, that their championship window is basically now. And we'll see. Honestly, we'll see. With the Boston Celtics rebounding, they believe that they have a great team now, especially with Jason Tatum back. But we'll see how Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown are going to play together because I believe that they're kind of on their tail end as well. Not necessarily from a real X and O standpoint, but more so of does Jaylen Brown really want to stay there? Are they cohesive as a unit to consistently run a two shooting guard lineup? Well, you're gonna have Jason Tatum kind of keep settling for jumpers while you have Jaylen Brown kind of holding the ball too long. There's a lot of things for that team that they kind of need to figure out, and they're basically and their offense basically consisting of you're either going to shoot the three or you're going to go for a one. Kind of very similar with the Houston Rockets days with James Harden, but at least a more refined version with better role players. But is that enough? Will that be something that will be sustainable in the future? I have absolutely no idea, not as of this moment right now. But I do believe that as the East continues to get better with the Pistons, Celtics, like I said before, and the Knicks now, I mean, even the Sixers, I think, are in really good shape to be productive. But, they might be on brink of collapse as well. Who knows if this is going to be Joel Embiid's last season, because Joel Embiid simply cannot stay healthy. So maybe this is a really good time for the Miami Heat to really gamble. But when you go down to the playoffs and you go down to the conference finals, will you have enough pieces around your roster to kind of build that championship team? And right now, I don't believe so. But right now, we're seeing trades kind of hidden everywhere. We have the Bulls who are trying to make trades. I mean, please, we just got to do our best job when it comes to getting people from the draft. But I think the draft is going to be pretty easy. I think we're just going to go for Caleb Wilson. I almost said Caleb Williams. Shout out to the GOAT. But we're going to go for Caleb Wilson. And then I think maybe we're going to get Cameron Carr or whoever the next pick could be. I really don't know. But essentially right now, we got Nick Claxton for basically nothing. We just basically added a trash player to the roster. And I know as soon as a player gets on the Bulls, all the fans try to find different ways to justify how great of a player he is. But Nick Claxton is just simply not a great player. He has, especially in like the last couple of years, has declined in his play. He's not a good shooter, like really just at all. He's more so of a lob threat, and he's not even that good of a rim protector, to be honest. He hasn't been doing a good job. But granted, you are on the Brooklyn Nets, so it's kind of hard to do a great job when you're on the Brooklyn Nets because everything sucks and everything is horrible. But hopefully the Bulls can really kind of like figure something out. I like the new coaching hire in Tiago Splitter. The new general manager seems to be doing a pretty aggressive job in trying to get new players to come to the team. I even had talks with my barber, even though I doubt this is going to happen, that even trade might be a possibility. But I don't know if that's going to be a real case. But I do believe that if they're going to get a guard from this draft, that means that Josh Giddey is basically on his last legs. Josh Giddey is, one of those players where he needs to develop a jump shot. I mean, I'm just sorry. It's hard to keep saying this every single year. In order for you to be really anybody in the league, but especially a point guard, there's not that many non-shooting point guards in the league. As a matter of fact, I just don't think that there really is any. But in order for you to be a good point guard, you need to be able to shoot at least league average. And league average for the three-point line is around like 33 to 35%, 35 being a little bit higher. And then just being able to stretch the defense in that way. You can only do so much when the actual defender is basically just paint sitting against you and ruining your actions. And then you have to become like a de facto screener for everybody. And that's just simply not going to work. It really isn't. And so I do believe that this draft, this is the case like Draymond Green said, where the dynasty starts after you. I think Josh Giddey was good enough to be serviceable. But with the fact that he has not been able to progress into being a decent three-point shooter, especially with all the problems with three-point shooting on our team, it's just going to be very, very difficult for us to kind of like get some things together with the current roster, especially if we were to get Caleb Wilson, who also can't shoot. And so we're getting a whole bunch of people who can't shoot. We would have loved if we were able to get in the 1, 2, 3 pick range, but as soon as you get to the 4, you kind of like fall out of that range. And I don't want to doubt the kid too much. Caleb Wilson seems like he's pretty aggressive, pretty motivated to be a really good player. But I want to be realistic in what he has shown on tape. He's pretty good in terms of on move, being able to utilize his speed and athleticism. But, he needs to develop a jumper. I mean, simply that's just what's going to be the case for everybody. And you could say that he probably has the career trajectory that Giannis has in terms of building muscle, but also building enough of a shooting repertoire to be dangerous on the mid-range at least. You don't even have to be that good of a three-point shooter. Just being a good shooter regardless will be able to give you a little bit more space. But, right now, having Nick Claxton, Josh Giddey, and Caleb Wilson as like your starting 5, that is going to be a headache as a coach. And I already know Tiago Splitter will have troubles with this roster if presently constructed. Will be that in the preseason / regular season. And so I do believe that right now my Bulls, they're looking kind of rough. But also the Timberwolves are seemingly making trades as well, along with the Nick Claxton trade to the Bulls. Julius Randle is finally out of Minnesota. Oh my goodness. It has been a long time. I feel like I've been on a crusade about Julius Randle and the fact that this guy is just simply not the player you kind of want to have on your team if you're trying to build a championship building roster. The way that his game is, and it's really difficult because part of it is that like obviously, if he continues to keep playing the same way that is malproductive, the coaches are telling him to basically play that way. I would not assume that this is something that he just simply just being hard-headed on, but you never know. But essentially, they're just saying, listen, we don't want Julius Randle. We want to have more of a flow to our team. They signed Ayo DeSumo back, and they're trying to kind of build a championship roster team. The issue is that, when you look at the West, the best way to say if you're a championship roster is that you look at all the championship rosters are the ones who are really, really contenders. And so you look at your roster and say, well, are they good enough to beat OKC in a 7-game series? Are they good enough to beat the Spurs in a 7-game series? Hell, even the Denver Nuggets, even though they have done it. But this was more of an outlier this year than it was prior years. Are you good enough to kind of go over that hump? Because right now they're at that hump where they probably realistically have 1 to 2 years to win a championship, and then we have to have conversations on who can stay on the roster salary-wise. Is it going to be trades for Jaden McDaniel? Is it going to be trades for Rudy Gobert? Is Rudy Gobert even going to stay on this roster? I mean, they probably have to, especially if you're getting rid of Julius Randle. But, you have to think about what is left for this team to kind of make sense in a way. And so I do believe that the Minnesota Timberwolves are trending in the right direction. I am very curious to see who else they're going to pick up. But right now, as presently constructed, they're not good enough to win a championship. Now, the real news, of course, is Giannis going to the Miami Heat. But right now, I feel like everything is basically lateral moves. I think that every team is simply, they're making moves, but the next move has to be the move for them to kind of get them over the hump. Will the next player be that player? Even though Giannis is a great player, he's a fantastic, phenomenal player, is he that player to kind of get you to the championship with a very depleted roster? Many people don't remember, but when Giannis was on the Bucks, he had a really, really good roster. PJ Tucker, the GOAT Jeff Teague on the bench, but he had Drew Holiday, Chris Middleton, Robin Lopez. He had a very well constructed roster for him. He is not the player that's good enough to kind of build and get a roster that is practically depleted, similar to the Miami Heat, to the championship. But we will see. We will see, especially with how he is going to fit in that Miami kind of offense, because that Miami offense really revolves around ISO and having to move off ball and basically kind of just kick. Very kind of old school pickup style basketball, which kind of is in Giannis's wheelhouse. But we'll see. We'll see. But right now, things are exciting, and we're super, super stoked to see this draft and how this draft is going to pan out.